Hi David, thank you very much for taking the time to have a chat with us. So I wanted to ask you, GTD's fairly, it's been around for a long time, but in Australia there's it's a narrow, deep sort of thing. There's not much width there yet. And so I really wanted to ask you, what are the benefits? You've been teaching GTD for so long, you've seen so many people. What are the main benefits that individually you've seen people get from implementing GTD?
Well, the main thing I've seen people get is just more room. You don't really need more time. There isn't any more time, but what you do need in order to be creative, to be strategic, to be focused meaningfully, to be present, and all those really golden goodies of what it really means to feel and be confident and productive. You need space, you need room in your head. If you're taking one meeting to the next in your mind, or you're taking home to work in your mind, or work to home in your mind, that's not your most productive state. You're distracted, and that stuff takes up a psychic real estate that's not available for other things, and you have a limit to that. So eliminating those things, or finding out what do I need to do to be more appropriately engaged with all those commitments so they're not nagging at me, that's a lot of the power and the value of what GTD is. When people start to implement that, they go, wow, I have a lot more room to be present with my kids watching them play football, or cooking spaghetti, or more room to think strategically day to day as opposed to being down in the weeds, all the time. Or just, God, now I've got time to paint, or time to, have more creative ideas relative to the projects or the things I'm working on. So what people fill up the space with is quite unique to them, but they get more space to do that. And that's true organizationally as well as personally. A team will get more room to be doing more of what it ought to be doing from a higher perspective, et cetera, when the team starts to implement these behaviors themselves.
That's fantastic. That's what I was going to ask you, the team sort of thing, the space that they get, and then use that up, etc. So at that team level, you see that quite
exactly, of course. And not everybody, maybe everybody on the team doesn't necessarily do all these practices, but if just one person starts doing it, the whole team kind of moves up the food chain. So if more than one starts to do it, wow, it really does make a difference, because it starts to add very powerful vocabulary and thinking to the team. What's the outcome? What are we after? Who owns it? What's the very next step? What did we just decide? And most teams, if they just build that a lot more consistently into their lexicon or their vocabulary and just their style of how they work and communicate together, it moves up the food chain, and lots of cool things start to happen that weren't happening before.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your time, David.
Stephan, my pleasure. Sure.